It's the biggie for first-time buyers. What price property can I afford? I'm Phil Spencer, and this is First Home Focus, the place where we share advice dedicated for all of you first-time buyers and brought to you in association with Skipton Building Society. But do make sure that you check out all our content for guidance on every step of the way. Now, until you know what your price range is, you can't really start house hunting. And it's hard to know how much of a deposit you'll need, so let's get into that to start with. The usual way to work out how much a lender will lend you is to multiply your household income, whether that's just you or you and a partner. Different lenders will use different multipliers to work out what you can afford based on your income. But lending will also depend on your personal circumstances, your credit report and your outgoings. Your credit report is hugely important when it comes to getting a mortgage. Lenders are looking for borrowers who are reliable and good at managing their money. And your credit score is one very good indicator of that. Many first-time buyers don't realise that your report influences not only how much a bank or building society might lend you, but also the interest rate that you will be charged. The better your credit report, then you might be in a more favourable position for more competitive mortgage offers. So if you have a good credit rating, you may be more ready to buy your first home than you think. You might also be able to borrow more than you realise, and potentially your monthly mortgage repayments could be lower than you expect. So it's good news if you could pull that off. If you don't have a good credit rating, there is a way to improve it. Several services now enable renters to have their rent payments recognised as a regular payment that can then be added to their credit profile. So if you were to be offered a mortgage, how do you know you can afford the monthly repayments? Well, if you're already renting a property in the UK, your monthly mortgage bill could be lower than your current rent for a similarly sized property. It does happen. Affordability is the main thing that lenders check when you apply for a mortgage, because it's as important to them as it is to you that you don't come unstuck when it comes to paying your monthly bills. When you're working this out, remember you need to factor in council tax, utilities, home maintenance, as well as have the funds for the upfront costs of buying a home, things like legal fees, surveys, stamp duty, if it's applicable, of course. As ever, a reputable professional mortgage advisor will be your ally in helping you to get your figures straight and also to understand what you can afford and how much you're likely to be able to borrow, or indeed should borrow. The other cost when you're buying for the first time is, of course, the elephant in the room. You're going to need a deposit. This is typically anywhere from between 5 and 25% of the value of the property. And so this is something you really are going to need to save for and work hard to try and gather. If you have, for example, a 5% deposit, this would leave you needing to borrow 95% of the cost. That would be known as a 95% loan to value, or LTV. But be aware, the higher the LTV, the more costly the mortgage will be in the long run. In an ideal world, the greater the deposit, the more favourable the rate and more cost-effective the mortgage. So how can you save for a deposit? Well, one option is to stash your cash into a lifetime ISA. These are available via some banks and building societies, and whatever you save each year is topped up by the government by 25%, up to a maximum bonus of £1,000 a year. So if you save the maximum allowance, which is currently £4,000 a year, with the government top-up, you'll add £5,000 to the kitty every year. But you can only use the money towards buying your first home, and that has to be for £450,000 or less. Use it for any other purpose before you're 60, and you'll pay a hefty 25% government withdrawal charge, so you'd actually get back less than you paid in. The withdrawal charge also applies to any withdrawals in the first 12 months of your first payment into your lifetime ISA, even if it's to buy your first home. So if you're planning on buying within the next year, then this might not be the right account for you. But otherwise, it's really good news. Another route for first-time buyers to affording a home is the shared ownership scheme. Shared ownership is like a cross between buying and renting. You buy a percentage of a property, anywhere from 25 to 75% of it, and then you pay rent on the remainder. Over time, you can save up and buy more of the property. These schemes are still quite niche and usually available on new builds or through housing associations. We have an entire episode dedicated to the pros and the cons of shared ownership, so do make sure that you check that out if you're looking to learn more. Let me leave you with one final tip on making your first home more affordable. Widen your search area. House prices vary hugely, even within a region or a city. A good research can genuinely uncover more affordable locations. For instance, why pay to live in an area with great schools, for instance, if children are way off on the horizon for you? Or why pay to be near a commuter station if you drive or walk to work or work from home? What's important to you at this stage of life may not be what drives up property prices. So try and think outside the box, or at least outside of the obvious locations. Join us again for more top tips for first-time buyers. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and we do recommend you should always speak to a suitably qualified professional. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Move IQ's First Home Focus podcast. We hope you found our tips and advice helpful. Remember, home ownership may be closer than you think, and we are here to support you every step of the way. So please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review our podcast so you never miss an episode. Until next time.